I'm super excited to introduce this brand new card coming out in Elestrals Divine Champions Lifestream, introducing Typhlant, Champion of Poseidon. Being a Champion of Poseidon, this of course pairs very nicely with Poseidon himself, with the standard play being using Poseidon's effect to Nexus a water spirit from himself over to the Typhlant to trigger that Ascension effect into Ivory. And of course, Ivory then lets us bring back a Typhlant from our underworld, so we can always bring back Champ Typhlant just to get some extra bodies on board and threaten another Ascension on subsequent turns. But you can also always bring back base set Typhlant, the non-champion version, to force an opponent to discard. Of course, we need that Typhlant set up in the underworld, but if you have that already, seems like a pretty strong play. The really cool thing about this Ascension effect is that it just triggers from any water nexus. It doesn't need to specifically come from Poseidon or have Poseidon involved at all. This means that other nexus cards such as Altar of Stars and Aphros can of course trigger this effect. Altar of Stars is really interesting to me specifically because of course Typhlant can only ascend into a Ivory once a turn, so even if you can bring back Champ Typhlant and re-trigger that effect, you can't ascend again that turn. But Altar of Stars can do that on the opponent's turn. This also leads to really cool implications, specifically during the battle phase, because I don't think you really want to use it during the main phase when you risk then committing more spirits to the Ivory just to get it like Earthquaked or Kinleoed or whatever spot removal the opponent has in the main phase. But during the battle phase, opponent tries to attack, just flip Altar of Stars, and boom, you got a 6/8 on the board that is a lot more difficult to deal with. This also has some niche implications, or I shouldn't even say niche, but some implications with if your Typhlant gets Gorgon's Gaze on your turn, to still be able to threaten the Ascension on the opponent's turn. Aphros, on the other hand, I think is a better backup option if you don't have the access to the Poseidon to trigger the Ascension effect, because if you do have Poseidon, I actually think there is a more optimal line to make here. And that is because of Typhlant's first effect to enchant water from the underworld to itself. Pretty much the play that I envision is that you use Typhlant's effect to enchant water to itself from the underworld, use Poseidon's effect to Nexus to trigger the Ascension effect, and at that point you've got one extra spirit on the Typhlant from its own effect and one extra spirit from the Poseidon's Nexus. That is 2, which you can then Nexus with Aphros, say, back to your Poseidon to get a draw 2. And the benefits I see with that is, in general, spirits feel a bit safer on Divines than Elestrals, and it also allows for more spirits on the Poseidon for setup for cards such as Poseidon's Fury, a card I personally really enjoy using, and always feels very impactful when I do use it. Now that is a very specific combo for the enchant effect to be relevant, but of course there's just some good generic applications for it, such as being able to push extra damage and a pseudo healing when you siphon it with to cast invokes and counter runes. It's always nice to be able to pull the spirits from board instead of pulling from your spirit deck. It keeps your health a little higher and just extra resources to play more cards. Feels really great. A final cool combo is, of course, with Atlantis, because extra spirits means extra buffs from Atlantis. And in Archetype, the Poseidon Archetype, we have, of course, Globby, Champion of Poseidon, which can search out the Atlantis, meaning we've got ease of access to it. And it really makes me think there's like a cool water reanimator build just kind of focused around this Typhlant that would feel really, really cool. And I mean, you've got Ivory, of course, to bring back the Typhlant, so you're just kind of getting a bunch of spirits on board. They're really big because of Atlantis. You can kind of keep recurring it. So there's one deck idea for y'all. Besides Water Reanimator, or maybe in conjunction with it, I'm curious to see what a Typhlant discard deck could look like. I've seen experimentation with this in, I think it was a Daybreak or Moonrise Premier tournament, specifically the Typhlant discard, just looping it with the Water Reanimator stuff, if I remember correctly, just to force some discards. But also I remember in the casual scene seeing some experimentation with the Ivory as well. And this just gives extra consistency to that strategy. So whether it be just kind of a separate just package with some good stuff water, or maybe just comparing it with the Water Reanimator stuff, I think there's something here to test. I'm also curious to see how this card performs in the Water Nexus control deck that I have been tinkering with. The general idea of the deck is to set up Poseidon's Fury and resolve it and see how impactful that card actually is. And I just paired it with the Water Nexus stuff such as Aphros because draw is very handy to end up setting up for it. And then there's just a bunch of good water stuff in general anyway, so you can just kind of keep low to the ground, and when you need to deal with bigger, wider boards, you got Poseidon's Fury to be able to wipe it out. But one thing this deck doesn't have is a good way to go tall. And this Typhlant is just an in-archetype way to potentially do that. Though admittedly, my interest in trying it out in the Water Nexus control deck specifically hinges on what Ivory, Champion of Poseidon, ends up doing. Ivory hasn't been revealed just yet, so only Apollo can foretell what its effect may be. But what we do know is that Typhlant Champion of Poseidon is a great accessibility tool for Ivories, both the current one and any that we see in the future. So I want to now hear from you all. What are you excited to experiment with Typhlant in, with decks, strategies, any concepts at all? Please, I want to hear it down in the comments below. But that is it for this reveal video. Thank you to the Elestrals team for letting me reveal this cute little elephant. It was a blast being able to talk about this card, and I'll see you all next time for my usual new set product opening stream. See you then.